man.
Right.
And in Jesus offering himself on the cross and conquering sin and death on behalf of man, and in God being able to reconcile the world back to himself through what Jesus did on the cross, God's desire to be propitious towards man was satisfied. That's why he was satisfied.
Sure.
He hasn't, I mean, you feel satisfied, you have a desire. Like if you're thirsty for a Coke and you want a Coke, and then you take a sip of a Coke and you're like, you feel satisfied.
Right.
Well, God sat with the thirst. His thirst was to be good to man. And then Jesus came and manifested the goodness of God towards man. And so God's thirst to be good to man was satisfied. And so God could say, you know? And that's what Isaiah is talking about with God being satisfied. That's why Jesus was a sweet-smelling savor unto the Lord. It's got nothing to do with God having some bloodlust where he's like drooling out the side of his mouth like a rabid dog that wants to go kill somebody. And now he finally got it out. That's not God, man. And I say it that ridiculously sounding so we could see the image that we had painted God in our hearts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like there's part of our heart that just is loving God because of that initial response when we heard he died for our sin and we didn't know anything, and that just moved us, right? That just moved us. So we sat with that, and then over the years we sit with this other thing where, man, we've really painted a horrible picture of God over the years, and now we sit with those two things like a contradiction to each other.
Right.
And man, contradiction in the heart is not a good thing for the heart. It makes the heart uneasy. It makes the heart unsettled. Sure. It's like with a little baby, with a young child. If the young child doesn't know when it's going to eat regular times, or it doesn't go to bed at the same time every night, the child becomes uneasy in their heart. They feel unstable. There's no stability. They think, well, I ate it this time this day, but we ate this time another day, so who knows when we're going to eat? And so then they become cranky and fussy, and they cry. And if they go to bed at one time one night, and then another time other nights, they have instability. Yeah. Well, that's kind of like we were with God. We were like babies or children that were fussy and cranky because we sat with this instability, this uneasiness, because we had two different views that were opposed to each other.
Yeah, that's very true. Absolutely.
If that makes any sense. And so that's why Isaiah said God was satisfied. That he saw the travail of Jesus' flesh and he was satisfied. Yeah. If you read Exodus, I love piecing together all the scriptures and showing the Father and the Son talking. But if you read in Exodus, I think it's right after the children of Israel come out of Egypt. It says, afflict your soul and do no work. Well, that's the Father and the Son talking. And that's the Father telling the Son to rest and do no work. Right? And Jesus does that. On the cross, what does he do? He rests and he does no work.
Right.
That's what afflict your soul means. Afflict your flesh. Meaning, don't let your flesh go to work. Don't put your flesh to work. Don't put your flesh to work to have life. But rest in the arm of God for life. Don't put the arm of the flesh to work to have life, but rest in the arm of the flesh, or the arm of God to have life. And so the Father and Jesus were talking in the Old Testament, and what they were talking was the Father was telling the Son, listen, man, we'll incarnate you into human flesh. You'll put on the likeness of sinful flesh. Then we'll baptize you in the sin of the world. That sin will manifest itself in you on the cross. You'll have all sin and all death in yourself on the cross. And if you can rest and do no work, if you can afflict your flesh and not enlist the arm of flesh for life, but instead trust me and my arm to give you life, we can redeem the world and redeem our people. And so Jesus came and he hung on the cross and he afflicted his soul and did no work. He rested on the cross. He didn't enlist the arm of flesh on the cross to prove he was the Son or to clothe himself, and he did no work. And then that could be the foundation from where God could come and raise him from the dead, man could be redeemed, and the world could be redeemed. And so God would be satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we didn't, this can be shocking to think about, but we didn't have to be justified from the accusation that we had done wrong. That wasn't the accusation.
Right.
And then we think God was the one who accused us.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things going on there. First of all, God's not the one who come and accused us. So it ain't like God come and accused us of doing wrong, and then we're justified from having done wrong.
He's not the accuser.
He's not the accuser.
He's not the accuser.
That doesn't mean that we didn't do wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not the crux of the matter. And if we get our eyes focused on that, we're missing the point. The accusation always come from the serpent, and the accusation was always that we're not the people of God.
Yes.
The accusation was always that we're not the children of God.
Yes.
The accusation was always we're not the God kind. The accusation against us was always that we're orphans and that we're in the world bereft of a father, bereft of anyone to provide us with life, bereft of anyone to claim us as their own, bereft of anyone who loves us and belongs to us. That was the accusation.
And because of that, we have to go do it ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
Well, of course, if that's the accusation.
Yeah.
And so the evidence was that we were clothed in death.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? The serpent had great evidence.
That's right.
We see God. God only has life and light. Can we all agree with that?
Sure.
In God, there's no death or darkness. Well, if I see myself clothed in death, that looks like some pretty strong evidence that I ain't
not the
his.
God kind. Right.
Right? That looks like some pretty strong evidence that I'm now orphaned in the world, that I'm bereft of a father, that I have no one who will come and clothe me, no one who will provide me life, no one who will claim me as their own, no one whose heart cries out because it belongs to me, no one like that. That's the accusation. And so to be justified is to be declared innocent of the accusation. What accusation? That you're not the children of God. How did God declare us innocent of the accusation? He took all of our sin and death and he absorbed it into Jesus. Jesus now hangs on the cross as us. What was the accusation coming against Jesus on the cross?
Not the Son.
He's not the Son. And what was the evidence that he wasn't the Son? Look at it.
Yeah. Right.
That's the same accusation that had come against all people. It could only come against him because that's what come against us. And so when God went and raised Jesus from the dead, he declared mankind innocent of the accusation that they didn't come from him, that they're not his. He declared man innocent of the accusation. Right?
Yeah.
Now, when we can hear that and believe it, then what God did to justify us then justifies our heart. So there's different aspects of justification. You first have what God did to declare us innocent. Then when you grab a hold of it, that truth dwells in your heart and strengthens you in the inner man, and now your heart is justified.
Wow.
And that's what it means to be justified through faith.
Yes.
You believe what God did declare you innocent, then that dwells in your heart and you're justified by faith. That faith that you saw, you believe that faith will raise you up and justify you, even now and even in the day that Christ returns. Right? But if we think that the accusation was that we did wrong, we're all the time focused on our doing and our works and our flesh. That was never the accusation, man. God never, that's not the problem. The problem was we were accused of not being the God kind. God had to come and destroy that. And so God issued his declaration that we're innocent. Not that we're not guilty, that we're innocent. There's a big difference.
Yes.
And I'm not good at explaining it because I'm not an attorney. But Thomas is. And he explained it to me the other day when we were talking about this. And it registered something big to him, how big of a difference there was between being not guilty and being innocent. Did Adam ever stop being a child of God?
No.
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 But the life he possessed in this earthen vessel at that moment hadn't come from God any longer. Right? That's the difference there. Right? But Adam was still the child of God. How do we know? Luke, in his genealogy, traces it all the way back to Adam, the son of God. And so, man, that declaration, when Jesus was raised from the dead, God justified mankind. He declared us innocent from the serpent's accusation. And in doing that, he gave us all a right unto eternal life again. He said, no. These are my people. They come from me. They have a right to my life. So by the righteousness of one man, believing on the Father could come and declare us innocent of the accusation. And then show us the way unto eternal life. Right? And then we're not just God's children by Genesis, but we're God's sons and daughters by way of partaking of his life. Meaning the life we possess now, it came from him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh man, that's so
But
powerful.
but that's a huge deal when you think about what it means to be justified.
Yes.
It's not just as if I never sinned.
No.
Now listen, with that being said, I taught that for many years, and it blessed me for many years.
Yeah, right.
And so there's nothing wrong with the person saying that, because there could be a place where someone is so filled with works righteousness at that time that will really bless them.
Yeah.
And it will give great freedom to them. Okay, but as we keep wading out into the waters of grace, and we find the waters of grace flowing over our head, but we find ourselves still breathing underneath the water, even as it's flowed under our head, we're going to come into this place about understanding what it means to be justified.
Hallelujah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you start getting down to the nitty gritty. And did you see how we know that? How do we know that that's what justified is? Because we see all that in Jesus.
Right.
If we want to know what was the accusation against us, you have to find the evidence of it in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Jesus interprets everything. That's how you look at the wisdom of God and let the wisdom of God interpret. What was the accusation? Oh, I see. They accused Jesus of not being the Son.
Yes.
They accused him of being the smitten and stricken of God. They accused him of being forsaken by God. They accused him. Why did they accuse him? Oh, he was clothed in death.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's how it went down for me. And that's how you get revelation from God instead of your own thinking.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.